We're here because you don't want to be just another solo detailer capped at $100,000 a year. You want a top 1% outcome, and that's why you're here on this video. Well, I've got to prep both of my vans for a massive week of mobile detailing, but by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how you can go from hustler to boss inside your detailing business and no longer feel like you're a slave to your company. And I can promise you that outcome while I'm working on my vans because I have done exactly that. I used to feel enslaved by my company. So this here is my You're Able for the week. These are all of our mobile details that we have scheduled. Today is Saturday. We've got $3,500 scheduled for the coming week, and it's only Saturday, so usually that number ends up being about $7,500 for the week once it's over, and it's November as well. So the winter doesn't really slow us down. I remember the biggest struggle that I had for the longest time with my business was trying to get booked out consistently. I didn't want anything more than just to always have jobs. And then when I finally got there and was experiencing a rush, it was the summer of 2023. It was my first summer of the business. I was so excited, but that excitement only lasted for really about a month before I felt completely drained. Yes, I was making like $4,000 to $5,000 a week as a detailer by myself, but it was in the middle of the Texas heat. And that's all I was able to make. I was tired, I was working 60 hours a week, and all I was able to do was about $4,500 a week. And whenever you have this aggressive mindset, like I've always had, you only feel like you're doing anything when the number is going up. If I reach a baseline of, okay, great, we're at $4,500 a week consistently. If I've been doing that $4,500 a week for 2 months straight, I no longer feel like I'm making progress. I always want to see that go up, but I was genuinely just capped by the amount of time that it was taking me to do my details. And I felt like there was nothing else I could do to grow from that point. And that lasted for months on end before I finally figured out my next moves. And that grind, that hustle went on for a long time until one morning I was doing exactly what I'm doing right now, filling up my stuff, prepping for the day, listening to a podcast by my biggest inspiration at the time, Luke Belmar. And he said something that really changed my perspective and made me feel like a genuine loser, even though I was making so much money at such a young age. And that was the fact that if you focus on immediate profits, if you just hustle to make money, you will become a slave to your hustle. You must go from becoming a hustler to being a boss. Because a boss takes charge of his time, a hustler, his time is owned by his hustle. Because once again, I was literally capped at the amount of money that I was able to make based on my working hours. Yes, I was working a business that allowed me to be worth $100 an hour, which is extremely high for really anything else that I could have been doing with my time. But can you imagine being a young man with the amount of drive and ambition that I had, only to make the exact same amount of money, maybe with marginal improvements across time, when I'm 18, as when I'm 20, as when I'm 25, as when I'm 30, and never really have the opportunity to experience the exponential growth that comes with compounding a business. So that's when I learned, hey, I actually do have to hire. I can't just focus on hustling. And that's where my first major struggle for business came, was my initial round of hiring. Because in my head, I had this mentality of, okay, if I hire and bring people on, it means that I'm going to make more money instantly. And that just wasn't the case. My entire mentality at that time was still that of a hustler. Even as I was trying to hire people, I was still trying to hustle and make the most amount of money possible. So when I brought people in, I was saying, hey, we need to be producing $150 an hour now that there's two people together, and we have to make sure that we're always hitting these numbers. But truth be told, these guys were brand new. They didn't know what they were doing, and it was on me to train them. And that's when I learned something very, very important early on, which is you have to be willing to take one step back in order to take 2 steps forward in business. Can you imagine if I had taken all of my profits from hustling and increased my lifestyle? Can you imagine if instead of reinvesting it into the business, I started splurging, going out to eat loads, going on trips, maybe buying myself a fancy car? Like I was making 15 to 20 grand a month in profit for a long time, but that almost all went away when I started hiring people. And I didn't understand why. I thought that I should be making way more right off the rip. But that just wasn't the case because I had to have that long-term vision in place of, okay, yes, I'm going to hire these guys. My profit margin's going to go down. It's going to cost me money in the short term, but long term, once they're optimized, instead of making 15 to 20 grand a month profit, spending 60 hours a week detailing, I'll be able to only be on the field 5-10 hours a week, having a look at what's going on, and I'll be profiting 25, 30K a month. But that really is a long-term ambition, a long-term vision. So the biggest advice that I can give you when becoming a boss and switching from that hustler mentality is make sure not to increase your living expenses. If you increase your living expenses in accordance with the amount of money that you make from the hustle, then you will always be a slave to the hustle because your bills will be so high that you won't have the opportunity and the blessing. It truly is a blessing to be able to make less money. Making less money is a blessing. You need to switch your mentality to understand that the less money you bring in, if it's in pursuit of something that you know will give you more money in the long run, that's a blessing. You need to be able to capitalize on it. And that's why for the past 2.5 years of building my business, I have still lived at home. I still live at home. I have a car now. I bought both of my parents a car. I'm reinvesting in that way, but I haven't messed around too much with my lifestyle because I know that in order for me to go to that next level, I had to be willing for certain periods to only make $4,000 or $5,000 a month in profit because I was trying to build up that team. Imagine if I didn't have the ability to do that. I would still be literally stuck with the same level of ambition that I had, but without the ability to capitalize on that ambition. I would still be making the exact same amount of money as I was before, slaving day in and day out for my business that I should own. It shouldn't own me. And even just that realization of, okay, I need to switch up and I need to grow the business. And the only way it's going to grow is if I actually have people on board and if I grow and if I hire. Even though I had that realization, it doesn't mean that everything was fixed overnight because I still had a mentality problem. I was still thinking like a hustler, which was the mentality of, okay, I've got this person. They didn't generate me enough money right now. I need to come down on them and be hard on them and try to make sure that, okay, here's our criteria, X, Y, Z. Instead of just taking a chill, laid back approach and understanding that if I just consistently work with this person over time, the work that I put in every single day is going to compound and give me the outcome that I want, which is an efficient person. And I had 3 guys at the time that I had this hustler mentality with, and they all quit within the span of a month because I was coming down on them too hard. And now I was left at square one. My hustler mentality kept me a hustler. Even though I was playing boss, I didn't take the right approach with my mental framework, and I was stuck. I was a slave to my business even still. And it wasn't until this year that I really cracked the code on that, which was saying, okay, I need to have no ego, drop the ego, and just be okay making minimal money in profits if it means service to that long-term goal. Because like I said, I have big goals. Can you imagine being a young, ambitious man with all of these long-term goals, but you only pursue those long-term goals with short-term actions? You say, at some point, I want to make 100 grand a month, $1 million a year in profit, be able to pay for my parents' vehicles, be able to buy a house, be able to travel all over the world. Like, those are my goals. But can you imagine me ever being able to hit those goals if all I'm thinking about is, ooh, how can I make sure that we're just 10% more profitable this month, even if it comes at the expense of the crew that I was building? Of course it wasn't going to happen, because once again, what you do consistently over time will compound and give you in direct proportion to that which you have sown. It's the law of sowing and reaping. There's an equal and opposite reaction to every action. So then I took a step back and I said, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I find one awesome person, and I'm really going to pour into that person for a month, okay? And then to know, hey, this person, I could waste a month of my time on this person and they could not be the right fit. And then I've wasted a month and I'm back at square one. So what I'm going to do is 2 weeks in to working with them, I'm going to make even less money by hiring a second person. I'm going to have 2 unoptimized people working for my company at the exact same time, which is going to take my profit margin, boom, down to the ceiling or down to the floor. It's going to take my profit margin down to the floor, but at least I'll have 2 guys. That way, if one of them quits, one of them's not as good, I still have someone to hang on to. And then once both of them were built up to a decent point, Then I was able to bring on a third person and then a fourth person. And really my strategy for growing my business over this past year, especially this summer, was bring on as many people as possible. That way I have leverage in every single situation. Because before, the first main guy that I hired, I was working with him one-on-one for 6 months before I turned him loose. And then I turned him loose and he started having problems. And I was like, why is he not able to deliver awesome results? He's been with me for 6 months. And then I realized, well, of course he's not able to deliver awesome results, because for those 6 months, he did half of the details and I did the other half for him. No wonder the windows are not coming out good, because I was always the one that did the windows. So the biggest thing that I learned was, okay, let's get that awesome person. And within 2 weeks of working with them, let's turn them loose and be okay with quality and efficiency suffering, because good customer service can always make up for those two things. I was physically present on every single job that my lead guy was taking care of, but 2 weeks in, I let him do all the work. Yeah, we were only doing one detail a day. That put my profit margins at maybe $50 a day for that one person, but that only lasted for about 2 weeks, because then he had learned all of the skills that he needed to go out and crush it and do 3-4 details a day and train the next person. So that's been my approach. My approach has been, hey, let me pour all of my time and energy into one good guy for 2 weeks. Let me watch him do the details. And then let me watch him do the details. And then at some point, he'll be at the place where he can train somebody else. And then I've just replaced myself. I've actually become a business owner at this point. Yes, efficiency might be down. But do you remember when you first started your hustle? Was it the most efficient? No, it took you time as well. So I'm just replicating myself into these people that I can pour my time into, and I'm scaling up the team so quickly that I always have leverage. If any of my guys ever have problems, I don't have to come down on them and be aggressive with them. All I have to do is just not schedule them for a week and schedule somebody else, because I have enough people. And then I don't have the problem of having to be aggressive and lead in that way. I can just lead with leverage. And that's how you get people to do what it is that you need them to do and grow an awesome company. And also, leveraging maintenance plans for team building is super important as well. Because if you build up an awesome maintenance plan, maybe you've got 50 customers on your maintenance plan, which is what one of my students, I think Yusuf in Atlanta, was working with him over the summer to grow his business. And he had a maintenance plan of $8,000 a month for his detailing business, $8K a month, but he was stuck. He's like, dude, my maintenance details only make me $80 an hour. I don't have any time to go out and do coatings or anything else. I'm stuck. I said, great. What we're going to do is we're going to hire somebody, and within 2 weeks, he's going to go do those maintenance plans all by himself. And you're just going to send a standardized text message out to each maintenance customer that says, hey, my boy's brand new, but he's going to be taking care of your maintenance today. If there's any issues, you let me know. Worst case scenario that can happen is you have a customer that you already have 6 to 12 months worth of relationship with that sends you a text and says, hey, this spot was missed. And now it's totally fine. You didn't lose that customer for life. You go, you fix it. You already proactively told them that your boy was coming in and he was only 2 weeks into the game. And then you have a learning opportunity for him. You don't have to come down hard on him. You just say, hey, we missed this. Let's try better next time. So within a month, Yusuf had somebody completely taking over his maintenance plan. $8,000 a month was now passive in his pocket. And then now he's at $30,000 a month because he was able to fill his time with coatings and buy a second van and hire a second full-time guy. But remember, the only way that we're able to consider our long-term playbook and make long-term decisions in service of the life that we actually want to live is if we can set our life up right now to no longer be in desperation. If that means moving back in with your family, if that means getting rid of that car of yours that you love, but it costs you too much money right now per month and it limits the amount of freedom that you have to make mistakes, then so be it. Because ultimately, your long-term life setup matters way more than your short-term gratification right now. What is the business that you want in 5 years? What's the business you want in 10 years? Does that trump you wanting to have a cool lifestyle right now? It absolutely should. The hustler is only thinking about making money tomorrow. The boss, the business owner, is thinking about making more money in 5 years, in 10 years, setting himself up for success so that one day he can live the life that he wants. So in summary, to leave you with the biggest nuggets, it's one, you need to consider your long-term life setup and what is the long-term playbook that you want to achieve. And you need to make sure that your actions right now are oriented in that direction, as opposed to having the short-term hustler, let me just get this bread mentality, because that's what's going to make you a slave to your business. And the practical advice on how you can scale up effectively is literally just don't care about profit margins for a short period of time, at least when it comes to scaling up with employees. You need to hire, fire the ones that are not as good, but you have the freedom to fire the ones that are not as good because of how many guys you've brought on. It's all about making these long-term decisions that give us freedom. And in the short term, keep your bills low. That way you can always be focusing on that long-term outcome. Because look, it's one thing to make $10,000 a month as a mobile detailer. That's $120K a year. Say you're able to keep almost all of that as profit as a solo detailer. That's awesome. But do you want a top 1% outcome, or do you want to just do a little bit better than the average person? And that's where my aggressive mentality has taken me so far, because I'm just never satisfied with where I'm at in business. You may perceive me as somebody that has a lot of the things figured out, but trust me, I'm always aggressively scaling and saying, hey, I want something far more than this. I'm not going to settle. It's the stick or twist mentality that I've adopted over the last year or so, which is, okay, if we make 10K a month, that's awesome. I can go ahead and press stick and keep it as is, get a $1,000 a month car payment, $200 a month for insurance, get a $3,000 a month apartment, go out to eat, invest and save just a little bit, but then I don't have much margin for error. I've stuck with what I have as the new baseline. Instead, I have always chosen to twist, roll the dice again. $10,000 a month, that's great. Let me hardly spend any of it and just keep rolling the dice. Let me see how good of an entrepreneur I actually can be long-term. But in order to do that, I have to have the freedom right now to make those long-term decisions. So hopefully you liked this new style of content here. Obviously, this is something that I have to do every single week to get my business ready to go make me money Monday through Saturday. So if this is something that was awesome, I can keep doing these, once a week or so and just consistently be pumping these out so you can get an inside scoop of what it's like to actually run a $50,000 a month mobile detailing business. And you can see what my journey to the top has been like so far. And you can see where I'm still going, because I can just kind of keep you updated week by week. So let me know if this was useful. I hope that you can apply some of these lessons. Trust me, if you do, if you actually have this ambitious mindset like I do, and you follow this playbook of thinking long-term and no longer thinking like just a hustler to get the short-term bread, I promise you'll be able to replicate the same results as me. There's a playbook for these things, just follow it.